January 13th, 2025. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Cerrone?
Here.
Mr. Gatewood?
Present.
Ms. Johnson? Dr. Murillo?
Present.
Mr. Ploger?
Present.
Ms. Simulton?
Present.
Ms. Venmus?
Present.
Student board members, Hope Rie
Here.
and Polly Palmnell.
Present.
Ms. Johnson? Present.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Good evening, Madam President. Today is an exciting evening. We've got a number of students and staff members we are thrilled to recognize, and I'm going to now turn it over to our Executive Director of Schools, Mr. Francis.
Thank you, Dr. Kilgotti. What a great night for us to celebrate. First of all, we are going to start with our student recognition. First of all, the Oswego Community Unit School District 308 Board of Education is proud to recognize our students' efforts and accomplishments. There are several students here with us tonight who have excelled in academics, athletics, and extracurricular activities. We have a lot to celebrate from this fall. Students, as your name is called, please come forward to be congratulated by the Board of Education and our Superintendent, Dr. Kilgotti. First of all, we have Allie Wertel. Allie is a freshman at Oswego High School. This fall, she placed 4th in the Class 2A Girls IHSA State Final Golf Tournament. Her score of 144 points secured her spot on the podium. Congratulations, Allie. At this time, any administrators and coaches who are present to join Allie up front for a photo. And athletic directors. Congratulations, Allie. Next, we have 2 students from Oswego East High School who achieved all-state status at the Girls Swimming and Diving IHSA State Final Meet. First, Katie Malm. Katie is a junior, and Katie took 1st place in diving. Next we have Addie Miller. Addie is a sophomore. Allie scored 2nd in the 100-meter breaststroke and placed 4th in the 50, 100, and 200 free. Congratulations, Katie and Addie. Again, any administrators, coaches, athletic directors, come on up. Congratulations, Katie and Addie. The last group of students that we would like to recognize tonight have amazed us with their artistic talents. The Illinois Art Education Association statewide student art show took place in October, and the following students were named IAEA Student Art Ambassadors for Illinois' K-12 art curriculum. We have Caitlin Russell. Caitlin was taught by Mrs. Steele. Jenna Allen. Jenna was taught by Aaron Coakley. We have Cheyenne Beasley. Shia Love. And last up, Peyton Lustrup. We have, if Laura Steele, Aaron Coakley, Michael Skura, Randy Craig, and Heather Stanish, if you're here. I see Mr. Skura is here. He's got to get up for a picture. Also, one more time for our admin. All right, let's give one great big last round of applause for all of our students and faculty being recognized. And we would also like to recognize our January 2025 Pride winners. Tonight, the Board of Education acknowledges our Pride winners from Churchill Elementary, Prairie Point Elementary, Southbury Elementary, and Murphy Junior High for the month of January. Pride stands for proudly recognizing individuals demonstrating excellence. The Board of Education began the program 9 years ago to recognize, promote, and celebrate the many contributions made by our teachers and employees across the district. We thank our generous district partners, Chick-fil-A, Culver's, Imagination Print and Design, Huntington Learning Center, Serve Bank, and The Scoop for helping to make this program successful. We would also like to thank all those who nominated individuals for consideration. Awardees, after your name is called and we share your nomination, please come forward to be congratulated by the board and Dr. Kilgotti, and then please wait until the rest of the individuals from your school have been called up because we love our pictures with you. First, we have Churchill Elementary School. Welcome, Sarah Carson. Sarah is a speech pathologist and behavior therapist. Sarah strives to have a full understanding of her students' unique communication needs, whether through words, actions, devices, or objects. As shared by a nominator, her unwavering dedication, innovative strategies, and compassionate approach have transformed the lives of countless students, empowering them to express themselves confidently. Sarah also collaborates effectively with staff and families to ensure each student has what they need to succeed. Congratulations, Sarah. Next, we have Tom Clayson, physical education teacher. Tom works to make his classes enjoyable for all students. Tom wants the best for all his students and maintains high expectations while also making his lessons fun and engaging with creativity and friendly demeanor. He also makes a conscious effort to include students in the cross-categorical program by giving them space to move and providing equipment that allows for their full participation. Congratulations, Tom. And finally, unable to attend the meeting, but we have Lexi Sluter, building nurse. In her first year at Churchill, Leslie has demonstrated an outstanding commitment to ensuring every student has access to a healthy learning environment, as shared by her nominator. She works to support both staff and students, and her coworkers are grateful to have her on the district nursing team. Congratulations, Lexi. Congratulations, Churchill. Our next spotlight is Prairie Point Elementary School. First up, Jen Boozle. Jen is a physical education teacher who goes above and beyond to serve her students, fellow staff members, and the Prairie Point school community. She is dedicated to her work, taking the time to grow and develop curriculum in her free time. She is not only an amazing PE teacher, she is a gracious and considerate person. Congratulations, Jen. Next up, we have Kira McCoskey. Kara is a kindergarten teacher and is admired greatly by all of her students. One parent shared that their child talks about her all the time after school. They can see the impact she has on her students. Another nominator said she is willing to listen, laugh, and grow right alongside her students. Congratulations, Kara. And finally, from Prairie Point teacher assistant, Jen Hooks. Jen carries a smile and a great sense of humor into her work. Her capacity to care for and serve both students and staff is appreciated by all. Jen finds ways to help those in her building whenever possible. She connects with students, bringing positivity and fun to the building while maintaining high standards and expectations of student behavior and academics. Congratulations, Jen. As we give another round of applause, please come on up, Prairie Point administrators. One more round of applause for Prairie Point. Next up, Southbury Elementary School, starting off with Sarah Howe, kindergarten teacher. Sarah prioritizes building connections with students, adapting to suit each of their different needs. She has built collaborative relationships with her fellow staff members, and those around her can see her passion for teaching every day. We feel very fortunate to have her as our child's teacher, one parent said. Sarah's enthusiasm inspires a love for learning among all of her students. Congratulations, Sarah. Fourth grade teacher and next gen mentor, Dr. Megan Truax is next. Dr. Truax strives to cultivate a safe classroom environment for all, ensuring her students believe in themselves and accomplish what they're capable of. She is supportive of other teachers and works hard to share her expertise as a next-gen residency mentor. Her positive attitude and focus on relationships makes learning fun for her students. Her coaching, support, and true passion for her job inspire me to grow and learn every day, one nominator shared. Congratulations, Megan. And now we have Luce Deck, teacher assistant. Luz is a STARS teacher's assistant. She is patient with students, holding them to high expectations while supporting them with her warm smile and welcoming presence. Through her work, she encourages all students to be successful. As shared by her nominator, she not only helps and supports her specific students, but is also observant and supportive of all other students in our school. Congratulations, Luz. One more round of applause for Southbury. And for our final school of recognition today is Murphy Junior High School, starting with social worker Sarah Knoll. Sarah is an advocate for the social emotional needs of her students, always available to lend a listening ear and offer helpful advice. She bridges the gap between school and home, working as a partner to students, parents, and staff. A nominator said she is one of a kind. It's apparent that she cares deeply for her students and fosters a safe environment for them. Sarah's experience and positive attitude have impacted all of us. Congratulations, Sarah. Next up, Erica Rarick. Erica Rarick is a 6th grade honors ELA teacher and collaborates well with her coworkers to ensure her students receive the best opportunities possible. She is dedicated to helping students succeed both in and out of the classroom. Erica is a strong advocate for what is best for students and staff alike, a nominator said. Erica is organized, and those around her know that she cares. Congratulations, Erica. And our final employee of the night is Michelle Lieberger, dedicated building sub. Michelle has flourished in her role as a substitute special education teacher this year, helping students excel in the classroom. She rallies behind her students, supporting them to be the best people they can be. As highlighted by her nominator, she leads by example. Congratulations, Michelle. Thank you. All of our honorees, please proceed out into the hall. We will have one big group picture. Thank you for all of our students, families, and community who are nominating our teachers for these awards.
Just want to thank Mr. Francis, Teresa, and Brandon. I'll wait till I will. Okay.
No. Oh,
Jared.
I didn't know. I mean, I had no idea.
Today I was looking forward to the M&Ms, and there are no M&Ms. No M&Ms out there. Did you guys recognize Anna Marie for that award? Was it good? I didn't understand. Yes.
her award, right?
Put it on. Is it on? Is it on? Okay, let me
Oh,
see.
right.
No, not yet. Come on.
Okay. Somebody spray light.
How was your Oh, this is your color. This is just like
We're not going back to closed session.
Five press.
You're being like invite them here in person. I'm like, he's not gonna come here. Yeah. I got you now.
famous last words.
All right.
Okay. Okay. Are we ready?
Yep.
Okay. Good evening, board. Thank you again. Next, we want to invite Dr. Paul. We've got Megan Mann, Tanya Sharp, and Dr. Lasco, who will be presenting an update on our high school English text selection. I want to thank also all the department chairs and school leaders who've been involved in this process. I know that it's been a long process, and I want to thank all those involved in advance of this presentation for their dedication and perseverance to the work that has been brought forward tonight. So again, thank you to your principals and you all for your leadership. I'll turn the microphone to you.
Good evening, everyone. As you know, I'm Dr. Paul, Assistant Superintendent of Learning and Innovation for our district. I'm with several team members who are going to introduce themselves to you here in a moment as we begin our presentation. We know that the work that we do is grounded in our foundational practices and really wanting to focus on our priority this year of rigorous and ambitious instruction. And with me tonight, I have several leaders who are going to be helping tell our story in our high school novel text selection that we'll be bringing to you today for information. We've just moved our presentation up a little earlier to allow my colleagues to head out after this presentation. So next, I'd like to give it to Dr. Lasko, who will introduce himself, and then Ms. Sharp and Ms. Mann.
Thank you, Dr. Paul. First of all, I've been promoted to doctor, and I am not a doctor.
Oh.
Neither medical, nor educational, nor any other kind of doctor. But I appreciate the nod of confidence, I suppose, that started with you, Dr. Kugati. But my name is Kurt Laxo. I am the Assistant Principal for Curriculum and Instruction at Oswego East.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tanya Sharp. I'm the Assistant Principal for Curriculum and Instruction at Oswego High School.
Hi, everyone. I'm Megan Mann. I'm the Director of Humanities.
What you can see in front of you right now are all of the individuals who are part of our high school novel text selection process. We have teachers representing both high schools as well as Thompson Junior High, because one of our courses is taught at the 8th grade level, Honors English 1. So we had representation led by our two amazing department chairs. You can see Colleen and Amy's name is noted there, and this work actually started last year and has continued into this year, and you're going to hear a little bit more about the timeline of the work that the committee has done, as well as, in case you're curious, we did share with you in the board memo an explanation of each of the courses in case you'd like to kind of see a little bit more about what each course is.
So the need for this work began in October of 2023 after the schools and district received an email from the College Board that they were sunsetting the Springboard resource, which has been the current resource for about the last decade. The College Board communicated that the sunsetting of the Springboard resource was driven by a recognition that the College Board is at a juncture where considerable new investment would be necessary to ensure the relevance and quality of the Springboard program in years to come. The College Board then allowed one more year of Springboard purchase, which is the year that we are currently in right now, so that schools could have ample time to adopt an alternate high-quality resource. So the 24-25 academic year, the teams have been working through the current resource as College Board allows them to print student and teacher resources from Springboard so that they can still utilize them where relevant. They can access those PDF files within Springboard Digital, but there is no new print material purchases. Springboard Digital has also remained accessible for this year only, but some features are not currently available. So beginning in the 25-26 academic year, Springboard and Springboard Digital will no longer be available. With this, the team got together and put an action plan in place where they are continuing to use the resources this year. However, they noted that certain steps needed to be taken in order to make sure that we are prepared for the 25-26 academic year. So in the spring of last year, spring of 2024, Colleen Kelby and Amy Howerton got a team of teachers together where they began to review and analyze the vertical articulation of the course standards, noting alignment, gaps, and overlaps that are currently existing. With that, they also did a needs assessment where they found that there needs to be a better balance of reading and writing instruction, where currently the Springboard curriculum and the resource is very writing heavy. With that, they also reviewed and analyzed all of their common assessments and the common assessment data. They identified areas of strength and weaknesses and determined necessary revisions based on that data. There was an immense amount of feedback that was provided by all of the team members. And then once all of that work was done, Kurt and I were included in that along the way, and it resulted in a few additional things. One of those things is that they really wanted to create a story of the course. So for example, for English 1, what is the story of the course? What is the purpose of these resources? How are we assessing our students? So in a very small example, English 1, the story of the course is coming of age, meaning that the overall literature exposure and development of those skills were in alignment with that quote-unquote story or theme. In addition, as they continued to review and analyze the planning and pacing guides, they have also been adding in the SEL and CRT standards. From there, they have been revising the pacing guides as needed, collecting the resources from Springboard, and continuing to determine gaps or areas for improvement. In April 2023, that Institute Day, all of the course team representatives presented to all of the English teachers across both buildings. They provided an update on the work that has been done and opportunities for additional feedback as the work continued into this year. Through that work also came the proposal of some novel text proposals to meet the needs of where those gaps are, and then that is where I will hand it to Megan.
Our timeline continues. This fall, the teams continue to work specifically working on vertical articulation with their writing rubrics. It was an amazing process to see. There were giant rubrics all over the room, and they were working in content teams, working vertically, and it was great work. They also continued revisions on their common summative writing or reading assessments and planning and pacing guides. In addition to the curriculum work, the department chairs were busy reading novels and bringing forth 10 to continue in the process. Throughout November and December, the novels were reviewed by high school principals, assistant principals of curriculum instruction, equity and engagement, myself, and Dr. Paul, the assistant superintendent of learning and innovation. We are proposing 7 novels to move forward to be used in 4 of our English courses. These novels will be on public display for 30 days, and then we would ask to vote for approval in February. Meanwhile, the teams will continue to work on curriculum work throughout this semester, working on continuing the planning and pacing guides, scope and sequence, curriculum maps, and then sharing that with their teams.
Before I share with you and summarize the considerations that were weighed in assessing the novels that we're proposing tonight, I want to take a moment to really celebrate the leadership that Amy Howerton at OH and Colleen Calvi at OE provided as department chairs of English at their respective schools. And their teams that came together did a phenomenal job as well with a relatively accelerated timeline. As you know, it's very hard to find time to read, let alone to read this many novels this thoughtfully. And also, if you had a chance to review any of the summaries of the text that were considered before proposing the 7 that Megan alluded to a moment ago, you can see how much, not just individual thoughtfulness, but how much collaboration went into this process. And in that sense, as well as others that I'll be noting in a moment, we really did a good job, I believe, in this process of adhering to the foundational practices on which the district is now focused. That is, of course, high-quality instruction, effective systems and teams, and equity and rightful presence. So on that note, the considerations that were specifically kept in mind throughout this process include, from a curriculum and standards alignment perspective, how much these texts can be integrated into the English language arts curriculum. Tanya spoke to that a moment ago, so I won't belabor the point, but we needed to make sure these texts worked with our academic objectives and our instructional priorities. That also meant, of course, the teams of teachers and the department chairs who led the work needed to consider text complexity, quality, the literary merits of the books that were being read and reviewed. Of course, had a lot to do with which text they agreed to advance and which would be appropriate for our students. We had to make sure that these texts connected to our summative assessment standards and priorities and the course objectives. And by the way, I'll take another moment to step outside of this presentation to say I think our English departments are leading the way with respect to curriculum work in general. If you're looking for a model for what good curriculum integration and good articulation looks like and what good collaboration looks like, you need to look no further than our English departments. They're doing a phenomenal job constantly tuning their curriculum, making sure that it's relevant and rigorous and engaging for students. With respect to engagement, we wanted to make sure that the text met our social and emotional learning standards as well. And the text that, about half of them I've been able to personally read, I can say very confidently that they are spot on with respect to addressing social and emotional concerns that are germane to our students today, going through the various things that our the members of our society are now facing. In addition to those social and emotional learning standards, we also wanted to make sure these texts represented our culturally responsive teaching priorities. And so in these texts, you'll see a diversity of perspectives and experiences represented. Authors' perspectives, characters' perspectives represent a broad array of human experience in the United States and even globally. And I think the staff members who were involved in vetting these books did the defined job of making sure that we were appreciating the diversity of our current student populations and making sure that these books, when read by our students, would help reinforce the sense of rightful presence in our schools. With regard to literary merit alone, we, in addition to wanting diverse and cultural perspectives represented, we also wanted to make sure these books were current, contemporary, relevant. And so the publication date was also considered. The reading level and student interests were weighed heavily as well. And we wanted to make sure these books were well reviewed and had garnered attention from those who award publications, because of course we want these books to stand the test of time, because we don't want to do this year after year with books that may miss the mark. So these books have been considered with respect to how much they are in fact speaking to aspects of life in America today and doing it well from a literary perspective. So in these courses that Tanya described earlier in her words, we have two types of text that we use in English. One is a core text, which of course serves all students in the class, and the other is a choice text, which allows for individuals to read certain texts that are of interest to them, or perhaps a choice text may be read by many members, if not all members of the class, depending on how the course is evolving over time. So when you review the list of texts, you'll see some are identified as core and some are identified as choice texts. And we're happy to present these 7 titles to you. I'm not going to read every detail on this slide here, because you can do that for yourself, but I just wanted to note that we are talking about texts in the freshman English program, English 1, English 2, which again serves sophomores, English 3 for juniors, I'm sorry, 4 levels, English 4 for seniors. One of our courses, Honors English 1, is also taught at the 8th grade level. We at this point are not recommending a book yet for that level, but that's a work in progress as well. So the various texts in front of you, again, you can see from the publication date, are texts that are highly relevant to students' social experience today, and also are wonderfully representative of a number of different kinds of adolescent experiences, as we want to make sure our students can connect with these texts and will be interested in reading them, not only for academic merit, but also for their own reading pleasure.
So to enhance where these novels situate themselves, I just direct your attention to the board memo. We do have a chart provided for you where you can see the current core text, the current choice text, the new proposed text, and then the proposed text choice use, so that you can see where these novels kind of situate themselves in the courses you see presented on the slide. We did want to give you an overview of the financial piece. One of the things that we want to highlight right away is that there is a one-time cost of $70,000, and we are going to be budgeting an annual budget replacement cost for $18,000 in the event that books need to be replaced. We did consult with 3 different vendors per your request as to consider different vendors out there to see which one would best meet our needs. The one that we're recommending is Follett. It is library bound and warranted for the lifetime of the book. Should the book need to be replaced, the library binding of the book allows it for durability, for multiple student usage. You can see in your board packet, we have the breakdown from the 3 different vendors, as well as the cost with a projected student enrollment. We did include for your review as well as audio files as well, and that is included in the one-time fee. In addition, you can see that our annual fee for Springboard was over $100,000, and that was annually. So this is a cost savings to our district by having this one-time fee with books that can be used to come. And we have some additional information we wanted to share with you, because should the board approve these novels, we are already in the works planning for some professional development coming up in the coming days in February and April. And I'll turn it over to Tanya to share that with you.
Thank you. So as you can see, highlighted here on this slide is stage 2. So the team is currently in stage 2 of the curriculum renewal development. They're developing equitable curriculum scope and sequence, and they're identifying evidence-based instructional resources, which they began doing last spring, and they have continued to do this fall. Some of the requested professional learning based on the gaps that they have found and kind of renewing and reviewing their assessments and their resources is they would like some more professional learning about reading skill assessment, especially as they are going to start shifting from being so writing heavy in the last decade or so to being more balanced with the reading and writing. Additionally, as part of some units, more professional learning on speaking and listening skills. They've requested literature circles for high school students. This is an important professional learning for the teachers, as the students may be reading a text altogether, or students may be choosing which book that they would like to read, and then thus a unit happening more through a literature circle. Additionally, the English teams will continue to meet to continue to assess, revise the planning and pacing guide, as well as assessments and rubrics. And then, of course, English team time for novel review and planning. For semester 2 specifically, so for this semester that we're in right now, they'll continue to have that time with each other as the English team members, and then we're looking for February 8th to have that professional learning from an outside provider, hopefully on literature circles. And then we will continue the curriculum document review and novel planning in April. And then in May, we are looking to have both schools together to be able to roll out the revised and renewed curriculum and the resources, hopefully, that they'll be using so that they can have that time to prepare before August comes.
So as we conclude our presentation, we really wanted to end with a professional development that we are planning for this year as we move into next year, should these books be approved by the board. We really want to make sure that we're continuing to provide that ongoing professional learning for our teachers. The department chairs, as you heard, have been preparing the team since last year. They've been doing continual professional learning. The teachers are aware this is coming. They're excited. They're excited to hear the outcome of bringing this to the board, and they are ready to begin implementing next year when we begin next school year. So we want to turn it over to you to see if there are any questions.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your presentation. And I was just thinking about our students who are sitting here and just wondering, was there any involvement of our students in the process, or do you see any involvement going forward for our students in terms of the novels that you've proposed?
So that's an excellent question. I'm not aware of students' involvement in the novel selection, although that is something we could definitely take in consideration for the future.
Might I add that I think in listening to the conversation, I think this is an opportunity There is a review process right now, correct? Right, so I think there is time still to even do some temperature checks around the books and the novels choices. But I will say that throughout the process, I heard intentionality about the level of engagement and approach. Students were always at the center of those conversations, and really drove the types of choices that were made. And because the educators are working with students every day, that their knowledge of student voice was very important. And I do know that in speaking with Dr. Paul a number of times that was raised. So, but I do think as part of the review process, there's an opportunity there to invite, and we have a number of opportunities in student access that you can do that. So.
Yeah, and as part of the memo, some of these novels do increase the number of student choices. As Ms. Sharp mentioned, the literary circles, part of their proposal is to increase student choice within the novel selection as part of the course. So they're building additional opportunities for students with these resources.
I have a couple comments. Well, thank you again. This is the second time I've heard the presentation, so I'll reiterate some comments that I did that were said at the Equity and Learning Committee. But I want to concur kind of what LaTanya and Dr. Kincaid or Dr. Calgatti were saying about student voice. I think when teachers read, novels or a whole stack of novels, thinking through the lens of their students, they really know their students really well, and they can probably guess after years of teaching what will resonate and what will not. But that to be said, if perchance when you go to the year 25-26 and 26-27 and there's a novel that's really not hitting, right, for lack of a better term, I don't want us to, I would encourage the administration let's not wait, a decade to replace it, right? Or to think through that again. And that's where you can get some, feedback from students about, like or dislike or their engagement with those texts. I also want to say that, there's no perfect book for a high school student to read. There's just so many books out there that would connect with our students. So there's no perfect book. There were some on the list previous that I have nostalgia for that I was like, oh, darn. And there's others on this new list that I'm like, oh, that's great. And then there's others that I've added to my reading list for my own personal reading. So I appreciate the due diligence with choosing the text. And to reiterate something that Jared said at our meeting, we really trust our fellow educators to bring recommendations to us about which novels would best fit the needs of our students. So thank you for that. Thank you to the team. I know that the English department chairs well-versed in curriculum, and I know that not surprised that they could be a model for other curriculum development pieces. I had one question that popped into my mind that I didn't get to ask, or that I didn't ask. I heard you say that the English 1 honors at the 8th grade, they're not going to be utilizing the English 1 texts that are here, or they are?
So English 1 honors is currently, there's not a novel proposed.
Okay, so they're not reading the English 1 text. Did they previously read the English 1 text?
If you look in your board packet, it has what the English 1 students are reading, but not English 1 honors. We can get that information to you.
Okay.
It's not currently available.
That was my question.
Are they going to propose a novel? Are they using Springboard as well? Or
So what they've been doing this year has been pulling resources, so short stories, poems, novels that they currently have already been in use. They're going to continue moving forward.
Okay.
We had a conversation with the English department chairs, and right now we're not moving forward with proposing a text for Honors English 1.
Okay, for 8th graders.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Hello. I just want to thank you again for bringing this to our attention. I know it's a lot of work, so thank you again for all the work that you guys put into this. My only question, I know you guys already stated it, but why did you guys choose to go for more recent novels? Because I know that one of the reasons was that you didn't want it to be outdated, but from a student perspective, I feel it's important to go for more older or historic novels, because I know in the past we did Animal Farm or Lord of the Flies, which really focused on the war setting and really diving deep into how a historic perspective. So how would the change of more recent novels such as 2020, 2019, would it change how history is getting taught through books? Or
So you want to go ahead?
Thanks. That's a wonderful question. I think. That's a wonderful question. And so I really appreciate you giving us a chance to talk to that point, because I agree we need to make sure that we are also using this opportunity to teach students about historical epics and experiences and important historical change that has affected our lives today. And so there are many books in the curriculum that will remain in the curriculum that do have, these are not replacing necessarily some of your favorites, yeah. But so there will still be a lot of those kind of, I guess, I don't know, for lack of a better word, classics or more familiar texts that have been in publication for decades. But that is a wonderful question, because that's one of our challenges as educators, is to be both honoring the past but also recognizing the present moment and helping students to identify with their own place in history. And it kind of goes back to that concept of rightful presence that I talked about earlier. It's one of our foundational practices. It needs to be a sense that I, as a student today, belong, and I have a right to shape the future that I'm going to inhabit. And I need both historical understanding in addition to contemporary awareness, and recognition also of some voices that have been underrepresented over the past couple of centuries, unfortunately. So we're trying to make improvements in that regard too. But that's a wonderful question. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation tonight. I just wanted to look at the projected implementation plan and understand that you feel this is enough time to implement this. I just want to make sure that our teachers are getting the professional development that they need to make sure that our students are successful. So can you just tell me within these 4 dates, if you will, how you feel this is enough time?
So as we shared during the presentation, our English department chairs have been providing professional learning since last year to the teams, so they have not waited till this point in time. We continue to connect with our department chairs, both assistant principals of CNI and Megan, Director of Humanities, has frequent conversations where at one point they might say, we want this professional learning, but where our staff is, we're going to need more of this or less of this. So we're willing to continue to support them even going into next year to make sure the professional learning continues. Both department chairs and assistant principals are great advocates for the teachers to be able to let us know what you need or what they need. And that's what we're already planning for, to be able to provide this professional learning coming up in the coming months.
And the assessments and the rubrics for these specific novels or this group of curriculum, are they coming from a curriculum company, or are they coming from our educators?
Tanya will answer, but I just want to say thank you for the question, because that's something that we have been talking quite a bit. In fact, I think the last time the department chair spoke to this, their words were, we can't wait. Like, we have to move on. So you're right. I really appreciate your understanding. There is a lot of work that has to go forward from the approval point to the implementation point. So thank you.
So while Springboard is sunsetting the resource, we are still utilizing the curriculum.
Okay.
The curriculum is it's not an upheaval of the curriculum. Okay. Within the vertical articulation that took place and the needs assessment, that's where they were finding out what needs to change, what needs to adjust, and that work has been happening since the spring of last year. So by the end of this school year, that's what those dates are for. It will be fully completed.
Okay. Thank you.
I had something to add. I want to first off say thank you so much for telling us about the plans that you guys have moving forward. I would like to talk a little bit about just involving as much student voice as possible when it comes to selecting and coming to select these books. I think that a lot of students don't know what comes into picking the books, like the relevancy and you guys actually taking time to read these books and go deep in them. So I feel like just adding student voice as much as possible would help maintain a really healthy conversation between teachers and students in the classroom as well. So I know that you guys said how you collect your data, so I feel like that's very important, and I love the way you guys do that. I think that's very smart and strategic. I would say that if you guys do use these books to collect data from students the following years on whether they like the book, if it was relevant enough to the things that are happening in our society, and I would take that and use it for the next selection of books that you guys decide to do.
Thank you, Hope. That's also an excellent point. And one way that we that we garner feedback is as teachers roll out a new text or any kind of new piece of curriculum, they're constantly assessing students' response and reaction to it, and they believe it or not, they get together and talk about it. So they, in this case, there will be a lot of conversation about how these books go over. You know, for instance, you know, there's a new text that we implemented for our freshman English program called "Everything Sad is Untrue." You know, I don't know if you've seen that title around the school. There's been lots of conversation after it was implemented about how did it suit our needs curricularly? Did it resonate with children? Is it well liked? Do kids want to turn the pages, or are they just kind of going through the motions? They have a lot of those conversations, but I think what I'm hearing you and President Hamilton say is that we really need to make sure that we're structuring our own process of review so that those voices and those perspectives are being incorporated into the next round of decision making. And one reason we did, I spoke to this really briefly, one reason we wanted books that were well reviewed and award winning is because when books are well reviewed, there's an assumption that it's being reviewed relative to the readership it's aimed at, right? Like, for instance, if you write a young adult novel, you're not really so concerned about what the grown-ups, you know, middle-aged people like me think, right? Ms. Bankowski says I'm past middle age, but I don't know if that's true or not. But the point is, you're not so much concerned about what I would think of this, more what does a young readership think of it? And if it's popular with that readership, it's likely to gain an award. So that's why we talked about award-winning, well-reviewed books, because of that very phenomenon. But that said, we can do a better job going forward making sure that student voice is incorporated more structurally, more methodically, and intentionally into our process. So again, great point.
How did some of the feedback from the curriculum audit play into what this process looked like? Did it change any of the process? Did it affirm the process? If you could speak to that a little bit, that would be helpful.
Absolutely. The curriculum audit talked a lot about planning and making sure we took the time to plan for the future. And you can see that evident in the timeline presented to you today and the planning that took place last year, as well as really looking at what our needs are and aligning our work to standards. So several times tonight you heard mention of unpacking priority standards, looking at student achievement data, looking at how we can align our work to not only the English standards, but also social emotional learning standards and culturally responsive teaching standards. That's a big part of the planning process, as well as having common curriculum map and scope and sequence so that students have similar experiences in the courses that they're taking to create equity within our system, and that thoughtfulness with professional learning and articulation, as well as communication with both high schools and our junior high as well.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, team, again, for your leadership and presentation this evening. We can give them a round of applause. It was a lot of work. Well deserved. Okay. Next, I want to invite our team to discuss some updates regarding our foundational practice. I know the board has prioritized this year in following our policy that's focused on equity and rightful presence to really make time to think about some of the learning and connections we're making between the policy and, more importantly, the practices that we're seeing in our district. And so I want to invite them to speak to that this evening. Dr. Paul, Dr. Waller, and Dr. Dubiel.
Good evening, board. Can you hear that?
Oh, it's a little
Good
light.
evening. Is mine working?
Hi. There we go.
All right.
Mic check.
Good evening, boards. We're excited about tonight's presentation because it will highlight one of the most important stakeholders of our group, and that's students. Tonight we're going to discuss how we can use the curriculum to elevate student agency and student advocacy, and how we're using the student data achievement to really reinforce our foundational practices, again, of effective systems and teams, high quality instruction, equity, and rightful presence.
So as you heard me just mention about the curriculum audit, it's really important to us that we continue to identify areas where we can use data from our students to be able to inform our instructional practices. And so this evening, you're going to hear a little bit more about some data that we've collected from our students grades 3 through 12 and how this data is helping inform our continual work around school improvement planning and supporting our students' overall well-being in school.
So in transitioning to this slide, I think the timing is great with our young ladies asking the questions around student voice and student choice. And so tonight we wanted to lift student agency and student advocacy, and recognizing that student advocacy is one of the rightful presence pathways. And so as we share this information and when thinking about student agency as it pertains to curriculum, we wanted to make sure that we discuss what it is and what it's not. And so we need to make sure that we're taking opportunities to validate and leverage our student voices, providing them with options, choices, background, interests, and creating those spaces where we're actually receiving the information that they're giving us and then utilizing it and applying it. And so ultimately, the intention with student agency is that what it is not is disregarding any of the needs that the students have, whether it be academic, social, emotional, understanding rightful presence is students need to have a sense of belonging. And within student advocacy, this gives our students a voice. This teaches them how to utilize their voices in a way that will be effective and so that they are received. This is creating opportunities for discourse. This is understanding how to agree to disagree, right? This is teaching them those skills so that they can actually make long-term meaningful skills, meaningful change within their own lives. And then we wanted to highlight what it is not, right? And so what it is not is adults speaking on behalf of students or not taking into their perspective in the conversations. It is not exclusionary, and most importantly, it is not a one-time event. It is something that has to happen consistently in order for us to actually understand what they need and so that they even have the practice to share with us what they need. Because again, you give them an opportunity one time and they do their best to share what they need, but then we give them the opportunity to lead into practice, and that is what will impact the social emotional growth and learning that we know is needed.
So in addition, we wanted to define what curriculum is and what it is not. This is something that we are working towards creating common language in our district this year, not only what you just heard about student agency and student advocacy, as well as what curriculum is. And we know that curriculum is alignment with rigorous standards of learning. It is a map to provide guidance for our teachers of where to go and how to get there. We know, though, that curriculum maps is not a one-size-fits-all. We really encourage our teachers to be reflective of the data that they're receiving, both informally and formally, from their students, and using that information to really differentiate learning needs based on the data that they're receiving throughout the year. So one of the things that we're going to highlight are social emotional wellness terms, and Dr. Waller is going to explain what these are.
No problem. We've been doing this. I'm like, well, she's on a roll. But so we wanted to highlight the areas of focus, whether with it being around self-management, social awareness, emotional regulation, self-efficacy, and then I know we have the social perspective taking, and it's important to note that that is for our secondary. That is not for all students. So we wanted to make sure that we have these pieces here because we're going to dig into the data.
All right, so the data you see before you is for our students that are grades 3 through 5 in our district. The survey was administered in the fall. We had over 3,000 students complete the survey, and the social emotional wellness competencies you see on the left-hand side are listed in percent favorable being the highest with the lowest percent favorable in the middle. On the right-hand side, you can see where our district compared to others nationally. The little bubbles kind of indicate where we are as a district, and again, you can see it's in rank order. Self-management being the highest, and self-efficacy being the area for potential growth. You'll notice some patterns as I transition into the data for grades 6 through 12. You can see that we did have a higher participation number of our grades 6 through 12 of over 8,000 students responding to the survey. Our highest category was self-management with 80% favorable, And then you can see sequentially with our area for growth for self-efficacy. You can see that this is parallel between grades 3 through 5 and 6 through 12. Self-efficacy is an area for continual growth for our district. So areas to celebrate and areas to continue to improve.
Can you just step back just one slide? Because I wanted to define self-efficacy while you were actually looking at this information. And so self-efficacy is how much students believe they can succeed in achieving the academic outcomes. And then you'll see as we transition to the next slides the questions that actually support this definition.
Thank you for framing that up for us, Dr. Weller. And so we wanted to provide for you the highest responded questions for self-efficacy for grades 3 through 5, as well as 6 through 12. You might notice that there are some patterns here. One of the things that we did do with our principals earlier this year is when they completed their quarterly school improvement reflection, we asked them to look at the lens of their current action plans for equity and rightful presence, high quality instruction, and effective systems and teams, and to consider this data set for their current action plans. Does this affirm where they're at in their plans for their school? Does this cause them to pause and to make some adjustments and tweaks? Or is this additional data that they might need? We are not presenting to you today our short answer responses for students grades 6 through 12. We are still unpacking those trends that we see. But one parallel that we are making is that this data is not surprising us. It's actually drawing us to some conclusions we've already made in the previous years. With the Superintendent Advisory Council with our students and the data sets they've been collecting along the way from their peers, it's giving us indicators that we still have some work to do when it comes to self-efficacy within our system. These are the questions with the lowest responded favorable responses for grades 3 through 5, as well as 6 through 12. Note that the question that is the 29% responded favorably for grades 6 through 12, how sure are you that you will remember what you learned in your current classes next year, is a data point we are aware of as a district, and we are continuing to plan in our strategic plan that is coming soon to you, and how we can continue to provide opportunities for students to be making connections with what they're learning in the classroom to their future. So we wanted to give you an opportunity, it's a lot of data, to see if you had any questions. Just as we conclude our presentation, our students will complete the survey again in the spring. The first administration was allowing us to get a benchmark of where we currently are as a district, and the second administration of the survey will be able to give us an idea of where we've grown, where we still need to go, and then how that can continue to help inform our continual work around our student success in the schools.
Can you give a little bit of detail? I remember you talking about it in a committee meeting, but in regards to how this data informed the school improvement plans, or how it impacted it.
Well, so a piece of what we were saying is that so we're in quarter two reflection. Our school improvement plans, we know, support our effective teams. They support our equity and rightful presence and our high quality instruction. And so within the equity and rightful presence lane, that's where we're asking them to dig into the research from, or excuse me, the data from Panorama to make those connections as it pertains to equity and rightful presence. For example, and I know the young ladies will share some work that they've been doing through SSAC, but we know our high schools have one trusted adult as their goal. And so it is imperative that they look at this Panorama data and information, especially the short answer pieces, to really dig into lifting that data to make adjustments to their school improvement plans. So that is the intention, that they will, within the support from schools and from Kiana, and we do a lot of collaborating, but that they're coming together and they're actually being intentional about what this is saying, because it's important data, and we keep looking at it and we're talking about it, and we need to make sure that we're applying it so they're making shifts. So
and I remember each school has a focus based on, and some of it was based on this data. Oh, I'll let you finish.
No, you're right. I think you're referring, so they each choose a pathway. So the rightful presence has 4 pathways. It is opportunity gap, the universal access, student advocacy, as well as cultural and relational responsiveness. And so they've chosen a pathway, and within that pathway is how we support through the Panorama.
Great, thank you.
And just to add on to that, for high quality instruction, we have 6 elements of that: rigor, relevance, engagement, future focused learning, social emotional learning, and cultural responsiveness. And our schools throughout our system have chosen either rigor, relevance, or engagement as an area to focus on for high quality instruction. And again, this data set kind of lets them know where their students are at, how relevant is the learning from their perspective, how engaging is it, how rigorous is it, and then what are we going to do about it? How are we going to make some adjustments and shifts instructionally?
Great. And the timing of this is perfect, and I'm so glad that you lifted that, because we do so much collaborating where we are in the professional learning that we are going to be providing principals and assistant principals on these different areas where we're marrying both of our, as well as the systems and teams pieces, so that it all is a collective piece and they can see it as a holistic view, but then giving them an opportunity to then have time to dig deep into the specific pathway that they chose, and then us providing examples of what that looks like, since this is all very new.
What I think I appreciate about the school improvement process that we're engaging in now with those plans is that we didn't have this data, I don't think, when they originally developed their plans, and so now our plans are like living documents, right? So if something pops up and you're like, oh my gosh, they're at the 10% mark, we can adjust, but we're still through that lens of those different pathways in our and what we're rooted in as a district. I was really excited to hear, because we saw this presentation also at Equity Teaching and Learning, that the principals are using these at the building level. I think it's really key, because I heard that they can also like drill down grade level, classroom level, and that really gives them, I think, a good sense of their population and what they can do for that population. Although that's individualized, I also heard at the committee meeting that there is some consistency we're seeing all these responses in the aggregate, but when disaggregated, they remain consistent in regards to areas of strength, areas of growth. And so for me, if everyone's struggling with self-efficacy, all I can think about is collaboration. Like, where are our 3rd to 5th grade, our primary grade principals? If everyone's in self-efficacy, building on our collective efficacy with principals, where can we, provide that time and space for them to do that? And then I also love that we're doing that, the second data collection, later on in the spring, right? So they can see if those strategies that they collaborated on paid off. And so I think it's a really good cycle, and it's really informing a lot of different aspects at the building level. So thank you. I thought I had a question besides that, but another thing I just wanted to point out is that self-efficacy obviously is the lowest that we're seeing, but I'm not super excited about us at the 50% mark for, emotional regulation. Like, if only half of our students can emotionally regulate themselves in grades 3 to 5, that's a concern too. Although we're in that green percentile, it's maybe speaking to some more, societal concerns, more broadly. But I don't think it would negate building principal making the case for, I'd love to work on emotional regulation, just because we're in that 70th percentile or something like that. Those are just some comments. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm interested in, this is a Panorama survey or Panorama data collection management system, or?
So Panorama's the name of the company. We presented both our Tier 1 SEL Universal Screener, so all students grades 3 through 12 take this survey on those social emotional wellness areas that you see listed up here. And the survey is brand new to our system. We shared this with you.
I think I heard about it.
Yeah.
And what is the universe of users on when you're getting that percentile number?
The overall number nationally?
Yeah.
I'd have to look that up for you.
Is it widely used across the country?
Yeah, within the nation, so I can get that data for you.
No, I mean, if it's more than just Illinois.
Oh, yes, most definitely.
I'm fine with that.
So if our self-efficacy is at 47%, and that puts us at the bottom, what's average nationwide? If because a lot of these other numbers, like emotional regulation, for example, puts us in 60 to 79 percentile. Yet it puts us at the bottom with self-efficacy. I mean, do kids generally believe in their ability to do their academic work? And ours don't?
Yeah, well, I think that that's a really great question. We need to continue to do our data analysis. This is our first time administering the survey, and that's an excellent point. Because when you look at percent favorable, 47% is not that far off from 49, right above it. But the percentile nationally is quite different. So thank you for raising that question. We'll definitely look into that.
It's like night and day, practically. Okay, thank you.
So my question is around self-efficacy, but in a sense that if this is about the belief of a student, that says to me that there's got to be some kind of paradigm shift, right? And how are we going to do that for our students? Do we have a thought about that? Like, what is the plan to shift the paradigm of a student's mind to believe that they can succeed and do this and achieve the outcomes that are expected of them?
You know, it's a great point. It reminds me of some conversations we had this past weekend at our town halls. And there were a number of students who came. Actually, they were graduates. And one of the messages that they're recent graduates from our district, and just thrilled to have them present because they had such fresh reflections on the district. And one of the things that they spoke to was the impact of educators who had raised for them the value and the belief beyond the curriculum, beyond the, I should say, the taught resource and text, but really in their capacity and to design experiences that capture their minds and excitement and enthusiasm. That's when I think of that concept of self-efficacy. I think it's that. It's not necessarily a definition. So I think those educators, maybe future educators, they're teaching now. So I would say that for me, in listening to them, they frankly felt that they just had not had enough educators like that. And I would argue as a district, I have to look in the mirror. We have to look in the mirror as a district, is how are we as a district providing the kinds of experiences and learning and supports for our schools in order that they can experience that, right? So it's not a simple answer. I think it's a collective answer that needs to be addressed, and I think that it's the power of the principal in the building, it's the power of how they're raising educators' voices, and I frankly, I think that the work that we're doing with the union right now to ensure that educator voice is really well coordinated with the district will make a difference.
I would also add, we don't have to guess at how to do this. There's tons of research out there. And Dr. Calvati, you spoke to one of them, like part of the research says that, if you have educators who believe and tell you that you can do things, that you are more likely to achieve those things. It seems simple, but then you think about what that means in the classroom. What does that look like in a classroom? What does that look like in a building? But that's one strategy. So all I'm saying is, we don't have to guess at how to do it. People have already done the research. We just have to pick the strategies that we think will best fit our students.
I think this is some very powerful data, and I just want to thank the administration. When I first started on the board, we are responsible for approving school improvement plans, and frankly, it was, and this isn't a shot at anybody, it's when you know better, you do better. But we have a ton, sometimes you get into this place where you either have not enough data or you have too much data and you're just like kind of data paralysis, if you will. But how do we take the data that we do have and inform all of the other things that we have to output with that data? And this, for me, to see the full circle come back to our school improvement plans is such an upgrade for our district, is such I just want to say, like a boss move. Like it frankly, when we were looking at school improvement plans before, it was just a shot in the dark. And now to see this come full circle in the last 2 years is truly remarkable to me. Like I actually have goosebumps because now it's all starting to make sense. Whereas before, it was all this disparate information. It was like, yeah, it sounds good. Let's throw that against the wall. But I just really want to give kudos to your team, because to see this come full circle back to the student school improvement plans, and honestly, I felt like a fraud sitting there approving them, because I'm like, yeah, sure, great, you know. But now the depth and the levels of which we are seeing the collaboration and the across the district, and the analysis of the data that we do have is just really remarkable. And I want to say one other thing, and I don't know if Dr. Maria meant this, but I loved the idea of collective advocacy with vertical articulation, meaning starting at the elementary schools and building on those skills that we need for our students. I think the levels could inform each other. I think the high school could inform the junior high, could inform elementary. So I don't know if that's what you meant, but I really love that idea of putting those two things together. So just really kudos. Obviously, I can reiterate everything everybody here says, but until we know what we're measuring, we can't start anywhere, and the baseline is where we start. So just really excited and proud of all the work here.
Yes.
Dr. Kincaid, can you speak a little bit to the impact of the Director of Research and Accountability in terms of the data?
Absolutely. As Dr. Waller mentioned, there's been very intentional work, not only through her department, but also the schools department in collaboration with both Diverse Learners and Learning Innovation, about the review of the school improvement, the collaboration between district and school administrators, and then also, as Dr. Kelgati mentioned, our Director of Assessment Accountability, we're also entering a vendor review to provide a data warehouse and visualization across the district. So we've taken steps over the last few years, but we're at the point where we want to do a deeper dive and have more availability and accountability. So we have started that process in December and are continuing that review, and we'll hopefully have a recommendation for all of you in the next month or two.
The power of collaboration is pretty impressive.
I just wanted to add that this is an amazing job that you guys are doing. And from a student's perspective, I'm not even gonna lie to you guys, like being a student board member just gives you such a bird's eye view of what really goes into classroom work and all those different stuff. And seeing self-advocacy, is that how you pronounce it? Advocacy? Seeing self-advocacy being at only 47%, it just, I don't know, it makes me so sad that students can really walk into a classroom and truly believe that they cannot accomplish something. Like that just, I don't know, it hurts me almost. Like I feel like if students were able to understand that the goals that they want to reach are achievable and that they can do it, that also builds such a great student and teacher relationship. And I feel like because that self-advocacy is so low and they don't believe that they can do what the teacher is either giving them or the tasks that are at hand, that they don't even feel like, okay, let me build this relationship with my teacher. Let me have that trusted adult that I can go to, because I myself don't believe in it. So when you allow students to believe in themselves first, then they can believe in what they're doing. They can believe in that adult. And I just think that it's just so, I don't know, so outrageous to me to see only 47% of students are like, yes, I can do it. And that rest of the percentage are like, I'm doubting myself. And I don't think that should ever happen. I feel like it's a conversation that needs to take place in the classroom. I feel like all teachers should be able to see this and understand that, hey, half of your students that are walking this classroom don't believe that what you're about to give them, that they can do it. Whether it's a test, a homework assignment, like they need to believe in themselves first and put themselves first so that they can have that person that they can run to, that trusted adult, that person for them. That's just my only comment on this.
And I think the two of you and your team behind you are at the forefront of this. I think what you're doing with the teacher-student relationship is groundbreaking. And I think that you advocating for this is actually going to be incredibly powerful.
Both previous comments are reminding me of like how cool to have this data. Like if I'm the high school principal, I can look back and see my 8th grade class coming in and kind of figure out okay, what's this going to be like? I have some data to help develop support. So that vertical articulation is well pointed out.
Some additional data that we've looked at is 5 essentials, and some of the most struggling data is actually students seeing the connection of what they're doing in their classes to their future beyond school. And that's something that, in conjunction with the work of our SEL and our academic data, that we're trying to kind of triangulate through the work of our college and career readiness. So not only looking at our SEL data, but other data that we have available also as what's driving some of the pathways for change.
We've seen both principals in our student advisory groups really just attack that data. It's really cool to hear them and see them talk about it and how far they've drilled down and disaggregated it and resegregated it and all that. It's pretty impressive to hear them talk about that and inform what's going on behind the scenes. It's very powerful.
This is the culture we've been trying to build.
Is there demographic data as well?
Yes, there is.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, team.
Thank you.
And thank you, board, for your feedback. And
Yes, thank you very much. Do we have any public comment? Okay. So we're moving on to 6.1, public comment. Oh, boy, we got a lot going on. On behalf of the Board of Education, I would like to thank the public for attending tonight's meeting. We value the feedback we receive from our members of the public and encourage everyone to take an active interest in their public school system. Residents interested in speaking to the Board of Education this evening are asked to have completed a comment card and presented it to the secretary to the board. When the secretary calls your name, I ask that you come to the microphone, state your name for the public record, and provide your feedback. Please note that comments are limited to 5 minutes per person, and no response to your questions are permitted. Comments should be addressed to the Board of Education. The Board of Education will not address concerns against individual employees. Rather, a complaint against an employee must be in writing and signed by the person who makes it, and the Board of Education will refer any such complaint for appropriate review. Follow-up to your questions or concerns will be addressed by administration through the contact information provided on the comment card. Thank you.
Katie Hayden.
Hello, my
Hello.
name is Katie Hayden, a local member in the community and engaged and active parent in SD308. I wanted to thank you for the warm welcome the last 2 weeks from admin, staff, educators, and community members. It's been truly enlightening. I think tonight has been a really great discussion of what we talked about with student advocacy, college and career readiness, but we're missing something. We're missing a whole nother different path of education, different forms of paths of education, from licensing exams and certification courses. I think a lot of students can kind of get lost when it comes to student advocacy and feeling that success crossing over into the workforce, because we're forgetting about those other paths for students. How are we going to bridge those gaps when it comes to the workforce? I personally know that when it comes to doing different paths of education, if you're not sponsored by a VA or an employer, students then have to take what is called an intellectual aptitude test. And when we have our Department of Education developing IEPs, 504s, and OHIs for our students, who is connecting that information to our union halls, to our other forms of education, and to the Department of Labor if the Department of Labor is setting up specific guidelines, when you think about a real estate exam, it's time. There's guidelines for insurance exams, and then the same goes for other industries. So if we really want to think about college readiness and success for our students and advocacy, we also need to be marketing those other paths. So by saying college and career readiness, we're already eliminating a whole group of students. And when we highlight, which I thought it was amazing tonight, we had athletes in here, we had artists in here, and we were celebrating them for their achievements. But we also need to be talking to these athletes, artists, musicians, people who are in culinary, and expressing to them about different forms of education. They could be a part of historical preservation projects, you know, within the city or within their local communities. Some of the tools that they use in these very classrooms go beyond and go into the workforce. So I just ask that you consider to start marketing to the students a little bit differently than what we do with just the traditional path in the classroom. And that we also think about moving forward, how can we help bridge that gap from education to the workforce? Can we start having those conversations with our unions now? Beyond the union for educators, your plumbers and pipe fitters, your electricians, your masonry unions, you know, go beyond to that and start connecting with your BAs and your representatives. And then I just wanted to give you some food for thought. I know you guys may know me as the trowel lady in our community because we talk about our trowels and education efforts. For our family, this has been our symbol for 3 centuries of building tradition, okay? When one of our children graduates this year, he'll be an 8th generational Mason. But with all that strong history comes generations of struggles in education. And for what feels like a traditional classroom that hasn't changed for decades. And I think that's where we're really starting to lose some of our students. And if we could bridge those gaps, I think we could tackle college remediation rates, engagement in the classroom, and success in the workforce. Thank you so much, and I am Katie Hayden, your #1 choice on the ballot come April 1st.
Hello. Thank you. Tony Giles.
Hi, my name is Tony Giles. I'd just like to first thank you for all the hard work that you do to make School District 308 a great place to live, learn, and teach. We really appreciate it. I just have a couple thoughts for you as you receive your calendar later on this evening. I'm a member of the calendar committee, and so we've been looking at things, and I think there's a concern about when we start school that there's a lack of consistency. I look at schools around us, school districts around us, and sometimes people are talking about, they're concerned with the end date, but there's no consistency with the beginning date. And so I looked at the school districts around us, and all these districts, either this year and or next year, end after Memorial Day. To the west, Yorkville 115. To the south of us, Plainfield 202. To the east, Indian Prairie 204. They end June 3rd. Naperville 203. Hinsdale 86. To the north of us, West Aurora 129, and East Aurora 131, they end June 2nd. So a lot of school districts do end after Memorial Day, but I think we need consistency in when we start our day. So I think the real question comes is the end of the school date about the education or the vacation? The survey that was given to teachers asked about, what is your preference with ending before or after Memorial Day? And how important is that? 46.7% said that it is important to end before Memorial Day. But 53.57% said it's not important to them if we end before Memorial Day or not. There's other factors I know to take into consideration, one of which is the cost value as well. I know that in August it's always hot, in May. It's in May and June. It's always going to be cooler. We have 20 plus buildings, just elementary, junior high, and high school. We have 20 of those. And I know we keep those at a comfortable level during the summer and the first part of August as well. But when you start adding hundreds and thousands of 98.7 degree bodies, then there's a bigger tax on the air conditioning system. So I think that's one factor. I agree that graduation date is highly important. But I think if we start and end days cause there to be an uneven distribution of days per semester. I know that was kind of one concern, but this really only mainly affects high school teachers who teach semester classes. And I've been teaching in this district for 20 years. I teach mostly all semester classes at the high school. I feel I have a diverse teaching style and practices. So the uneven school day, uneven semesters has affected me every single year, and we adapt. You know, there's many things that are going to go on that are going to cause us to need to adapt. There's things like seniors that'll be leaving early. There's people who are testing for AP classes that are coming and going. And so you adapt and you work and do the best that you can there. So it's not something that you can't overcome. Another concern is family vacations. Memorial Day is a nice 3-day weekend, but most family vacations are taken and finished up into August, not Memorial Day. This is probably because there's a higher percentage of hotter weather and lack of rain at that time. So I feel that we really need to be consistent in starting our school year with the third week of August, and then it can end when it ends. One of the other concerns is Thanksgiving. Teachers were asked the importance of having Thanksgiving week off. The Monday and Tuesday being in school, the importance was 45.76%, whereas for having the Monday, Tuesday off, 54.24% said they'd like to have that Monday, Tuesday off. Your schedules that are going to be proposed to you today do half of what the teachers want for Thanksgiving and do none of what the teachers want for the start and end of the school year. So I have concerns and questions about that. So another question is, why is there a SIP day on the Monday of Thanksgiving week? Last year, the calendar committee was told Thanksgiving week we wanted to have it off because it would be a nice fall break, but that was dismissed by the calendar committee because we said in another couple weeks we have 2 weeks off for winter break. So students get the week off, teachers have a SIP day, and then there's a rumor about that being an asynchronous day, but that's confusing as well, so that doesn't help teachers. The only rationale that I was heard and given was that Thanksgiving week off, other districts are doing it, so should we. But isn't that the exact thing that we tell our children not to do? And isn't that line of thinking the exact opposite of teaching our students to be independent thinkers? I thank you for your time and consideration on these two ideas regarding the calendar, and once again, thank you for all your time and work you do.
Thank you. Thank you. Is that it? That's it? Okay. All right, now we're moving on to 7.1 Superintendent Report. I'd like to ask Dr. Kelgati to give us his superintendent report.
Good evening, board. It's been such a rich evening already. I want to just take a few minutes to bring some highlights to you all. Hope everyone had a wonderful holiday season, board, and had some time for rest and celebration with your families. We are ready for the second half of the school year. I call it time for us, yes, clap away. Time for us to integrate all the strong foundation we've set in the first part of the school year. One of the things that's been a highlight is over the past several weeks, I want to thank our leadership team and our staff for really rallying to really bring in the voices of our community, educators, parents, community members, advocates, to really think about the hopes and the experiences and the ideas for a brighter future. Ultimately, a strategic planning process is about figuring out what the best way is to make a plan that can come to reality. And your voices have mattered. Through surveys, discussions, and polls, we've received thousands, literally, of feedback points from leaders in the general community, from students, alumni, parents, staff, business folks, and just general parents or community members who are listening. This feedback is shaping the next stage in our strategic plan and will help us in really realizing and actualizing a plan that can can make a difference. And what I've shared with the team and what I will share publicly is that our goal is to really put pen to paper on a plan that will be something we can achieve and make do and make work, and not something that's just the moonshot. Although there's always room for the moonshot, right? But we've got to make a plan that can really stick. Our students are counting on that. And next meeting, we'll have updates and some of the trends for the board around the feedback we've received and what the data's told us, along with a draft version coming in February, and with a recommendation, formal recommendation for approval at the end of February and approval by the board or feedback from the board in March. Related to this, the work is continuing. And so I want to, and this happens in a number of different ways. And so our Diverse Learners Department has been working to really think about the way we are thinking about our support for our multilingual learners and our special education programs, for both of those programs. And a task force has been developed for both of these programs and has brought together educators and our staff and our team to think about how we are developing these programs. And so we are really looking at, they're in the second phase of addressing the types of programs we have in our district. What are the kinds of services that we have in our district to best serve get the needs of our students best met. And we recognize that this is a long-term process, but it has to get started. You know, we have programs. We had a alignment around our program review, our types of programs, and I want to thank our union partners for joining us in that effort. Not last and not least, but I want to highlight a message I sent out last week regarding the Power School breach. That was very shocking and disappointing to hear about. Power School is an online tool that we use, and we know that this is unfortunately a trend, and it hit us. Power School is an external provider that we use to house our information. This breach impacted thousands of districts across the nation, and they brought that information to us. And so the information, again, that was breached may have included contact information for students, staff, and parents. Our records, as a good news, if there is one in this, did not include social security numbers or any kind of medical information. We don't collect those social security numbers. And so I think it's a highlight of like being discerning. We have been as a district about the kind of data, so there's a little bit of a silver lining there. We want to take this moment to really restate that we are tracking what we can around this situation, and as we learn more information, we will be telling the public and ourselves and our community about what's happened and what is available to us to ensure that we are doing the best to ensure that there are layers of security and data remains safeguarded. Last, I want to also talk about Dr. King's holidays coming up. It's a really important time to celebrate the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We are reminded of his mission. And, you know, I will say that many of us sometimes, well, I'll speak for myself, I have often wondered what it would have been like to stand with him, to walk with him, to walk behind him, to follow his leadership, to be alive during that period. And I want to invite us to really reflect that the legacy of and the mission for justice that he called for is one that we can realize today. We can walk with him in the way in which we commit ourselves to act with justice, to act with truthfulness, to act with courage, to bring forward the core values that we have in our district. That is what he championed, and his belief was so profoundly strong that he was part of such a movement. And I would argue that the movement we have in our district is to champion these kinds of changes for our students. And we have to keep going and keep doing this work. There are activities in our schools being planned. I'm excited to hear about those. There are moments, there are reflections, service opportunities. This is a great time to reflect on his. It's not a day off, it's a day of service, is what I tell people about Dr. King's holiday. And anything we can do to reflect on that is a great thing for our students and our history. On a somber note, I just want to acknowledge formally the devastation experienced in California, in the Southern California area. I think it's important we join in mourning the lives of those lost, those who've lost their lives, their homes. It's hit me personally. I have friends who lost a friend who lost his home, and has 3 children in that area. And so it's a very hard thing. And we want to also we're grateful for our first responders who are risking their lives and going in there to help all these folks who are in this time of great loss and challenge. So our thoughts and our prayers, and I love our robotics team put a shout out on social media inviting action and saying hey, any robotics teams in California, let us know how we can help. And I thought that was such a great example of the steps we can take, and also a great example for that robotics team for their focus and their priorities. So, and with that, I want to turn over to the board for additional comments that we want to make collectively.
This Saturday, the Oswego Wolves hosted the Oswego Panthers for the Boys and Girls Crosstown Challenge basketball games. Congratulations to Oswego East boys and girls basketball teams for both completing a program sweep.
All right, the team from Oswego East has advanced in the 2024-25 International Public Policy Forum debate competition, making them one of 32 teams to remain in the contest. This international tournament started off with 280 teams. Congratulations and best of luck to the next round.
I'm excited about this one. So Oswego East senior Cooper Carlisle was cast in the Illinois High School All-State musical, The Prom. I happen to have a senior in my household who was there to witness and watch and said could not stop laughing. It was definitely the best of the productions that they had down there in Champaign. Even had another student in my school who was also in the performance. So shout out to say the least. Cooper had the honor of performing at the 49th Annual Illinois High School Theater Festival this past week. It was great for all students who went down. And so congratulations, Cooper, and all those students who got to experience going down there.
Yes.
Recently, gifted education math students at Churchill and Homestead Elementary School celebrated the National Hour of Code. 2 guests from Festo Corporation visited class, sharing their experience with math, coding, and engineering in their careers. Students learned how coding is used with robots for the manufacturing and production of certain items. Students also got to see how code can fly a drone.
Robbie Wilson of Oswego High School took 3rd place in the Illinois High School Art Exhibition Art Throwdown. 25 pieces were submitted and over 1,000 votes were cast in this competition. Also, thank you to Marie Strake and Dan Whipple, 2 of our teachers, for mentoring and supporting Robbie. Congratulations, Robbie.
Before winter break, the Benarsic, Murphy, and Thompson Junior High School bands hosted their first ever composer residency. Laura Estes, a composer and retired teacher from Georgia, spent 2 days with the students from these schools. Each band played one of her pieces and received feedback from her. Students also got to learn about Miss Estes' inspiration and creative process.
So before I read mine, I just want to add that you talked about the basketball crosstown challenge. There's actually a wrestling one this Thursday at East, so be there. I will. We received great feedback from families and other community members that will guide us as we develop our strategic plan. We will continue the conversation surrounding our strategic journey with a few remaining focus groups, meeting virtually this week and next on special education, gifted education, and multilingual learners. Please visit our website to sign up. There's also a community survey available if you haven't filled it out already on our website, collecting input and ideas. We do encourage you to participate. And again, this is one of those few opportunities where the slate is clean. We want this to reflect the community as a whole, and we can only do that if everybody participates. So please do so.
Thank you. Now we'll have our student board member reports.
Hello. So as many as you know, our district is developing a strategic plan and through this process, emphasizing the importance of incorporating all perspectives to ensure it is cohesive and innovative. Our goal is, in the planning process, is to establish a roadmap for future successes as we transition out of the current phase. We are now focusing on specific ideas and have watched Dr. Kelgai's video introducing our strategic plan.
And at our last SSIC meeting, we discussed staff wellness and how teachers uplift one another through collaboration and support. Additionally, we explored social emotional learning for adults.
Furthermore, we reviewed our Youth Participation Action Research, or YPARM, initiative, which aims to drive and implement change. We are in the process of analyzing credible research articles that will help us determine next steps to better student-teacher relationships.
So what's been really insightful about this experience is being able to learn more about our school's improvement plan and its focus on one trusted adult. As a committee, we have defined one trusted adult as someone who... Oh, we worked very hard. This took lots of time, lots of nitpicking. So for us to come down to this, it took a while. So grand reveal, drum roll, please. So someone who genuinely invests in students' growth and well-being, establishing a foundation of mutual respect. This adult actively seeks to connect with students by making themselves relatable and approachable, ensuring that students feel valued and accepted. They communicate high expectations for achievement and behavior, offering guidance and accountability while maintaining a supportive, non-judgmental environment that allows students to learn from their mistakes. This person listens deeply, follows up and follows through, and offers helpful advice. Above all, they advocate for their students, are unwavering in their support, and strive to be a reliable presence students can count on, dedicated to fostering each student's learning and success.
Bravo. Now that's how you improve student efficacy. That is beautiful.
Oh, I also want to take some time to thank Mr. Bell and Ms. Pryor, which she's not here, but they helped and contributed a lot to this beautiful, now we have a trusted adult definition. So
very good.
Bravo. Bravo.
Very good. All right. 7.3, Board Committee Reports. Equity in Learning and Innovation. Who would like to start?
At our committee meeting, we saw the two presentations that were presented tonight, and we were able to give give feedback and have some discussions. And those were on the novel recommendations as well as the data provided from the panorama assessment as well. So, and then we also were able to give have some discussion about some questions around our strategic plan. So that's a quick summary.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else in that? Okay. Finance and Facilities. Would you like to speak on finance and facilities?
Take it away, Mr. Strong. I didn't summarize this. Yeah, we went through the strategic plan, academic wellness, safety, and self-directed learning, as well as master facility plan update, which I think you went through a little bit earlier.
Oh, no, it's coming up.
Flip to the end.
You know, we talked about just our thoughts. It was kind of similar to probably the exercise that you went through. Talked about continuing to push for support of math and reading, as obviously for all students, as well as early introduction of second language acquisition, social emotional wellness early and often. Suggested to introduce life skills courses like consumer ed, coding, digital literacy, mental health, investing, finances, etc., to better prepare our students for the future beyond high school. We did talk about career assistance, as something that we should look into. Safety, we did quite a bit on facility safety as well, and then we talked about freedom from bullying, and being safe in the classroom, having a trusted adult, stuff like that. So there's more in the report here. I just don't want to read the whole thing. So.
That's perfectly fine. Thank you. All right, 7.4, board member comments. Any board member comments?
Oh, I got quite a few.
All right, well, go ahead.
So you mentioned MLK, Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and one of the things that I always like to bring up is not alone and the origin, if you will, of the American aspect of the nonviolence movement. And so every MLK Day, I always remind us of Bayard Rustin, right? And so some of those other individuals that were are also involved that maybe we don't hear as much about, right? To your point about California, I also wanted to weigh in. I just have seen some disturbing things out there, and I just want to remind us that we can care about everybody. It's not an either or proposition. It's a little disturbing to read some of the comments. You can absolutely care about people in North Carolina and California at the same time. I guess maybe that's good news for some out there. We also had the opportunity today to talk to Senator Rezin about a number of initiatives, which I'm pretty excited about, and there's definitely connections into many of the conversations we had in regards to cell phone policies that districts are, and cell phone issues that districts are facing, as well as the vaping problem as well. And many of us shared some of our stories, and we got to also listen to some things that are going on in Yorkville, and Yorkville is doing something similar to what's going on in my district. And it was interesting that some of the people that are pushing back the most are actually parents. And the issue that came up was safety for kids. And I reiterated one of the stories that comes out of our school. And why we had to address this is we literally had students who unfortunately were texting each other and finding ways to meet up in bathrooms. And unfortunately, there were times where vaping was an issue, and we had other students who did not feel safe using those facilities. So it's a very layered and complex piece. And you can correct me where I'm wrong, Dr. Kilgatti, but I don't think Senator Rezin is looking for some statewide universal piece, but definitely looking for ways in which districts can be protected and assisted with some of those policy pieces. When it came to the vaping aspect, there were definitely some eye-opening things. I don't know if you felt the same way that I was not aware of, and how, speaking of technology, how we have companies out there that are targeting our young people, specifically using AI while they're at school, and specifically for vaping. And so the health crisis that could evolve from some of those pieces as well was discussed, and I applaud her for approaching us, and I'm not going to say anything more, but we may have some future opportunities to make sure that we're talking to both sides of the aisle and multiple school districts to try and be a part of solutions so that our young people are healthy. So
Yes.
that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining.
I attended a couple of the focus groups for special education as well as English learners. And the only reason I'm mentioning this is because it was definitely an opportunity for the public to give their perspectives. There were definitely, more aha moments. You're not thinking about X, and made with good points. So these focus groups are a way to kind of drudge that up. So please attend if you can. Anybody out there in the community listening today, or in the papers. So.
I just wanted to share that the board, we get a journal that comes in the mail to us from the Illinois School Board Association, and I was particularly proud of seeing a good portion of it was a reflection on the what did we just go to?
Triple I?
Triple I. And there's quite a few articles in it this month about student board representation and bringing students to the board table. And I just wanted to say that I did participate in a few sessions where Lori Grant, who is doing amazing work around this, did not know I was there, necessarily know I was there, and wasn't saying it because I was there, but really used and highlighted Oswego and the work that we've done around student representation. And I just wanted to say how proud I was that I was able to hear that, and have had so many different board members reach out over the time and ask for our phone numbers. And I've constantly given them Dr. Waller's number and what does it look like and how does it work, and sent people to our website to see our YouTube and see how our students advocate for themselves. But I'm just really proud and grateful to see it, and Lori continues to say wonderful things and advocate based on what Oswego and Lockport has done. So I just wanted to bring attention to that.
Thank you, board members, for your comments, and we'll move on to 8.1, our consent agenda. Can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda, please?
Make a motion to approve all items under consent, including 8.1 minutes from the Board of Education meeting on December 9th, 2024, open and closed session. 8.2 to acknowledge the FOIA request received by the district, and 8.3 to approve the field trips for overnight and or over 200 miles.
Second.
Are there any questions on the consent agenda?
Just, I have one comment. You know, listen, FOIAs are FOIAs, and they're open to the public, and that's fine. I would just say, hey, if you love our community and you want the information, stick around, right? Don't leave and then decide you're gonna to be here, right? I mean, we're a very welcoming community. Stay here if you want to file FOIAs and you care about the school district. It's awesome. Be in the state. Be here and you know, like we welcome all people. I don't understand the concept though of having us
from other states.
Yeah, I don't understand the concept of us paying for if I like that people are concerned, and that's good that they're, you know, but we're all still fitting the bills for those, and be great to stick around next time if you want those.
Right. FOIA is not free, in other words.
It's not free, and that's you know, and I know that's going to get comments, and that's fine. I don't care. I mean, at this point, you know, why not? So,
Jared, sometimes it's easier to look in somebody else's backyard than your own.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
hey,
what-
listen,
I think that's what it is.
I don't, you know, whatever people want to say, I like Illinois.
Yeah.
Like, honestly,
you.
I've been to 48 states, and I'm not saying Illinois doesn't have a host of problems. We do, and I get that. Don't add to them, I guess. You know, stick around, be part of the solution.
I love Illinois. I'm not fond of the winters, but with that being said, my comment about this is that I know that Dr. Kogati, you and your administration, as the board requested, are working on some just like policy and more of, not policy, but more of procedure and just parameters around FOIAs and how we share FOIAs, how long we share FOIAs, and that kind of stuff. Can you just give us an update on when we might review that stuff in public?
Thank you. You know,
Sorry to put
December.
you on the spot.
No problem. December was such a kind of intense close month. So we have been working on. So this is what I can say. We are not far off, and I'm reviewing some of those procedures. I like it to actually go to the policy committee. So
Awesome.
my recommendation would be before it came to the full board, if it's okay, I'd like to bring those recommendations to policy committee for review regarding some of our practices. We are doing there. First of all, just for anybody listening, there is no plan to limit or reduce people's access to their FOIA rights. Those are not governed by us, and so there's no such agenda. It's really more about some procedural steps that we are looking into, and I would recommend, so the answer to that will be then, I'm guessing then we have February, so let's say the last board meeting in February, we'll bring those updates to the full board.
I just wanted
for
to share that we had some
Thank you.
board discussions around, freedom of information is freedom of information, no one's questioning that. But there are ways in which public bodies have practice around how FOIAs work and stuff. There is one person that works on this, and it takes an incredible amount of manpower. And so we just wanted to understand and make sure that we are consistent in our practices. So I know that we had talked about that, and I just wanted to make sure that we didn't forget about that.
And I just want to reiterate, like, compared to some other school districts, I can tell you, we are far more transparent than they are. And so, I mean, if whatever, listen, I'm not saying there aren't criticisms out there, but if that's one of them, if you don't think the school district is transparent with their FOIAs, challenge you. 100% would love to show you some examples out there. In fact, hey, advertise those examples. I would love that, because I can show you some, and if you want to bring them to light, I'll help you out. I'll hold the door right open for you. But that's not one of the pieces. And we have to understand, though, as a community, there's a cost, bless you. There's a cost to being that transparent, which is we encourage it, and we do, right? Like I said, just be around here and be part of the solution.
Ready? Mr. Gatewood?
Aye.
Dr. Murillo?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Saron?
Aye.
Ms. Simulton?
Aye.
Mr. Ploger?
Aye.
Ms. Venmuth?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay. First up, we'll invite Dr. Zwemke to speak to an update regarding the 25-26 and 26-27 school year calendar. I know that I met with union presidents, co-presidents Faith Scobie and Andrew Godhealth regarding this, and so I will say that I know it's been a very involved and collaborative effort, and so I want to now turn over to Dr. Zwemke.
Well, good evening, Board. Always a popular topic this time of the year to talk about when school is going to begin. We are going to be bringing to you tonight for information a shared 2-year academic calendar encompassing 25-26 and 26-27. I'd like to thank on our committee Andrew Godhealth and Faith Scobie. With OEA and the committee, it's really a part of our collective bargaining agreement. We also sought out additional information this year from other local associations as well as our secretaries in our building. I'd also like to thank Dr. Paul for co-facilitating and Dr. Kincaid for attending as well too. It is always challenging to come up with a calendar to fit everybody's needs, but it's always collaborative and fits into our core values. So attached for you for 25-26 is a proposal within our state guidelines and recommendations. A few of the highlights in the memo that I'd like to bring your attention to is just that local comparison review, taking an opportunity to review other school districts, especially those where many of our employees also send their own children to. Had a chance to look at that with other HR directors. Beginning of the school year for 25-26 would be August 11th. 26-27 would be August 17th. Those are the institute dates. The first days for students are a couple days after. Professional development opportunities were also taken into account. A Thanksgiving week schedule break for students, and then a desire for additional school improvement half days under the guidance of our Assistant Superintendent of Learning and Innovation and Deputy of Schools. They plan to request approval from the state for 2 additional half days perhaps. For more professional development. I think we heard the desire for that a little bit more. The next steps for the board is to consider action on these proposed calendars. We're requesting at the January 27th meeting, but certainly we encourage all stakeholders to review the attached proposals and provide any feedback prior to this date. I certainly would love to hear from our students as well too at the start time and end time of the school year, and look forward to any discussion from our board that we can bring back to any stakeholders at this time. Thank you.
I do have a few things.
Yes, sir.
All right, so let me start with, I love the portions, I'll say portions, because I think we all end up arguing about calendars too, but I do think we need to really start paying attention to what's going on with our climate and the summers, because if we start to experience these heat days more and more, in August, I do think we need to at least, at the very least, start having the conversation around that piece. So that's number one. Number two, I'm always like cautious. Yes, we should compare to other districts, but we need to make sure we always look at the holistic conversation. So like if you bring in 204, I can tell you for a fact, well, 204, the kids have the week off, but the teachers are in conferences for that Monday. And so like it's a long day. It's a long, arduous day. And I know in 204, the last day of school is actually the Monday after Memorial Day, and it's a teacher work day. Not exactly the most popular thing to do there as well. So I'm like, I deal with this in my own school district where teachers will look at certain things from other districts. And it's important to look at the entire thing. And I think there are AP teachers who want as much instruction time before those AP tests, and I totally get it. The one question I have when I looked at this, other than I thought there were some really good points brought in public comment, especially centered around the August piece, can you explain, hey, listen, maybe you had this conversation, I'm looking at it from the wrong lens. The 23rd and the 24th of October, is there a reason why you didn't do that on the 30th and the 31st? Instead, I just like, I don't know, as a teacher, hey, if I can avoid a full day of Halloween. I'm all about it. But I don't know, maybe I'm looking at this from the wrong lens. I'm just asking, like,
Dr. Paul, Dr. Kincaid, do you recall that coming up?
That's an excellent point.
Yeah, it is an excellent point, but it didn't come up in the meeting.
This is an important part, that this is a committee. And I think so. I think some of the feedback tonight, I would say that this should go back to committee for their review, and because it's brought for information, and so the board's feedback is going to be really helpful for the committee to review it, and then we'll bring back next month those recommendations. So thank you so much for raising that, and just to say that the feedback tonight will be helpful for that committee to review. It's a committee effort. It's not the individual efforts. So
and I want to
I'm talking about the individual public. Because
Yeah.
what the union president said to me is that it's literally, if we're talking about the teachers' opinions, we're talking about percentages that are very close. We're not talking about a 60-40 spread or whatever. So I think it's really important to reflect on that, and I think the more we can get that feedback, I know that even last year I received comments from the board, from community members that said, you should look at this district or that district. And I said, well, we did. And with all the districts around, there are going to be so many opposing. Some districts do it this way, some do it that way. And granted, maybe Illinois should step in and make it a statewide calendar.
Right.
But
be careful what you ask for.
A lot of other things, so.
But I want to make sure I reiterate that I respect the committee and I absolutely. But I looked at that and saw that, and to your point about talking to other areas, I hope part of that conversation can be, hey, let's really look at what's going on in August, because that might not be.
And I think it's responsible from truly a fiscal perspective. I mean, the weight of whatever it might be on our systems, and I mean like our HVAC systems and stuff like that, our buses, our drivers. Let's be honest, I don't think it's getting cooler in the future. And I can just tell you from my community, I hear a lot in my little neighborhood, like everybody wants to be at the pool through August because it's hot. And so, but in May, it's still very chilly. So, just from a perspective of giving our kids a great summer, is that something to look at? But I also have a question. In the past, we have such a great working relationship with the union. In the past, I used to kind of get some contraband information that somebody would pass along. But I do know that they take these surveys among their membership. Is it something that they're willing to share with the board so that we have, I know it's been shared with maybe the calendar committee, but I think having that information, and you're right, 57, 48, 43, 53, but I think having that information, but also understanding the why behind it, is very helpful for us to understand what we're approving. I also just want to commend us on doing a 2-year calendar. It's becoming quite common for school district to do 2-year calendars. It really helps families prepare. And also, if we could just have a little bit more, I think, understanding of, like, for what Jared pointed out for those 2 days, of why those days were picked, it would be very helpful, because it is every year, without doubt, we approve the calendar, and then we hear, well, did you know this day was this day and this day was that day? And it's like, okay, well, let's make sure we know that ahead of time. The only other 2 comments that I have were religious holidays reviewed so that we made sure that we didn't have anything. And I would really love our student advisory board to have the opportunity to review the calendar and give actual intentional feedback to the calendar committee, so that we know that, parents are one thing, but I would love to know from our students what they feel about going back on August 15th versus like an August 29th or something. How does that affect them and their learning? What do they feel like being in school when it's really, really warm and hot and stuff like that? So just having, and I don't want to put the pressure on the 2 ladies up here, but we have a whole, student committee that could really give feedback into this. I was talking to Dr. Waller earlier, it's one thing to understand student advocacy and student voice, and it's another thing to actually be the ally for that. So we need to start making sure that we are getting their voices at the beginning of these big, anything that comes to the board should include the student board. So making sure that we're hearing from them prior to having us approve anything. They are the board. Just because they're different age doesn't have anything to do with the fact.
If we do go with student voice, one thing that I hope we think about are the students that have to work during the summer, especially and listen, I'm going to counter, because there's the August piece, and I agree with it. On the flip side, if you're a senior and you're ending, the quicker you can start working is going to be better off for what you're about to face.
How
So
does that push us back into graduation and then them
Right.
for college and stuff? Or I know a lot of students that travel during the summer because they're, that's given as a gift or something like that. But we need to hear from them, so.
In this community, I would say that that May date is extremely important, and it's a shift in culture that cannot be done very quick. I would say that is a very important thing.
Do you mean ending in May?
The end date in May, yes.
Before Memorial Day?
Correct. I think that is something that in talking to folks when I got here, when I first entered the district. So I think any attempt to shift that is not a quick shift. It's going to take time.
I think these are
Murray.
important considerations, but there are so many considerations, and I don't want to lose track of some of the other considerations that are represented here.
Yeah.
A balance of semester 1 and semester 2,
Yes.
like a balance of all these other things. Like, do families want to start later in August, but does that mean, they have to go 2 more days over, Christmas break? Is that palatable? I'm not sure that, I don't know. I don't think there are any easy answers. Especially, and I'm thinking about, graduation and what that means for families if you go past certain times. I believe we likely have graduation already scheduled several years out due to having to reserve at NIU, right? And so
Yes.
is that palatable to be letting, having graduation for, so there's just lots of considerations. I don't know if we'll have a lot of, so I want to keep those intact as we talk about other, things as well. I do have 2 clarifying things I want to clarify. In the Fridays in the summer, I'm just clarifying the district is closed, but 12-month administrators, you all are working remotely. Is that the case?
On which dates?
In the Fridays in June, the Fridays in the summer, it says district is closed. I just want to clarify for the. Am I saying it right?
410s, Dr. Mario. The
410. What is that?
Monday through Thursday,
they're increasing their hours.
We increase the hours.
So it's the 40
4 days a week for 10 hours a day.
And then they're closed on.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought they were working. You all were working remotely. Okay, that's helpful.
Dr. Waller is suggesting to put that in the ether for the summer.
And then my other question is just a clarifying question about the importance of the trimesters. Is that, I see the trimesters indicated on the right-hand side of the calendar. Is that has to do with, I think, elementary level assessment data? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. just double check my understanding of that. Thank
And
you.
I think, to your point, though, I think having, like, for instance, in the memo that was provided to us, all very important information, but I think having a little bit more information of why they chose the dates they did, to your point, Dr. Murillo, is a way for us to more defend, the calendar when we're approving it is, here's why we chose these dates, here's why these dates are important, here's the things that we can discuss and can't discuss. But,
Yeah.
one of the things that I just want to give a huge shout out to is the Thanksgiving week and having some professional improvement days in there. Such a huge move forward for us. And I just think that it's better than having kids sit around doing a Thanksgiving Day, puzzle or whatever for those days when they're already like checked out, and letting teachers kind of unwind a little bit into the other work that they actually have
Correct.
to do. So I just really appreciate that change from the calendar committee.
Dr.
I
Zwemke,
complete-
could you ask for FAQ? I think for some of these things, let's put together a FAQ from the committee of these points that are being raised. That I think a next step would be helpful. Dr. Paul and Dr. Zimmer, I
Yeah, I'm
apologize.
concerned about how many more committee meetings you would have to take in
Well,
order to, incorporate all these things.
This is an important feedback, and this is why we have the information to action. So we'll make sure that this comes prior to the board meeting so the board can review it.
So you're looking at January 27th?
Yes,
So,
yeah, we would
okay.
not have to change. The goal is not to change this schedule. So, well, things can happen, but no snow days. All right. Dr. Murillo?
I was
you had-
an FAQ was coming to my mind as well, like a list of why are we doing this
Yes.
in Thanksgiving week? Why are we having a start date that's different in, the second week versus third week of August? Things like that I think would help the board and the public understand as well. To your point, I completely agree, like the Thanksgiving week is nice, but then are you willing, not you, but is the community or the calendar committee or teachers or unions, they're willing to give that up to start earlier in August? You have to have the day somewhere. You know what I mean?
Well, and I know there's also been a lot of discussion about why start on Wednesday or Thursday. I know we've vacillated between those 2 days. So having that FAQ before we approve something, I think just makes our decision a little bit more solidified.
Agreed.
And getting our students involved.
Okay. All right. Madam President? Okay, thank you. Yep, and next we have an operations project update, Mr. Obafemi and Mr. Queen.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. So,
Wait, before we go forward, I just want to thank you for the lighting outside of the boardroom. It's
like
been-
it?
Yes.
All
It's been
right.
wonderful to have clarity and see who's out there, so I appreciate your.
we're going to continue with that too,
Yes.
Dr. K.
It is nice.
All right, so in this project update, I wanted to provide you with an update on the projects that I'm developing for the summer work of this year. First and most importantly, the redevelopment of Brokaw parking lot. We have some safety concerns over there that we need to address, and some parking issues. So that is number one on my list. Number two would be Grant Park in Murphy. It's a resurfacing. This is just to peel it back and put it back so we got some new asphalt. I got a couple areas I need to look at. I got some water issues that I want to develop. And then Plank Road, that's the road from the Waterworks building that leads all the way up to the entrance apron of OHS back parking lot next to the ball fields, and the bus lane here at East.
We lost audio. Oh.
There you go.
I can speak louder. We will have a
No, we need it for the record.
It's for the recording. Got it? All right. So we're hosting an RFP this Thursday at 71 Stonehill at 8:45. Following next Thursday, we will hold our bid open where we will bring these contractors in, open the bids that they provide for us, and then after that, we will follow up with FFC and then hear for information, moving on to approvals. That's my project update for tonight.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, action item 10.1, approval of bills for payment. Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to authorize the payment of bills in the amount of $4,261,258.39 as presented.
Second.
Ms. Venmus?
Aye.
Dr. Murillo?
Aye.
Mr. Cerrone?
Aye.
Ms. Simulton?
Aye.
Mr. Gatewood?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson? Aye. Mr. Ploger?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. Action item 10.2, approval of board policies. Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve the following board policies: Section 2, School Board 2:105, Section 6, Instruction 6:135, Section 7, Students 7:10, Section 8, Community Relations 8:10.
Second.
Ms. Venmus?
Aye.
Mr. Gatewood?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson? Aye. Mr. Cerrone?
Aye.
Ms. Simulton?
Aye.
Dr. Mario?
Aye.
Mr. Ploger?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. Action item 10.3, approval of personnel report. Can I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve the personnel report as presented.
Second.
Mr. Gatewood?
Aye.
Dr. Mario?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson? Aye. Mr. Ploger?
Aye.
Ms. Simulton?
Aye.
Mr. Cerrone?
Aye.
Ms. Venmus?
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0. Action item 11.1, can I have a motion to adjourn, please?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.